Hey guys, it's Alec Torelli. Welcome back to the hand of the day. Today's hand is heads up 50-100 session against Donger 274. We were in the midst of a pretty epic heads up battle we were playing over the course of multiple days. We were going back and forth a lot, playing really aggressive against each other and really trying to outwit the other opponent. It was definitely one of those matches where both of us were really butting heads going at it. He raises the button. I call with 10-7 off, which to a min raise is pretty standard. Simple math problem, but I'm calling 100 to win 300, so I'm getting 3-1, which with 10-7 offsuit is good enough to warrant the call. Check the flop, which is pretty standard. I'm doing pretty much all the time. He checks behind. He is good enough to be quite balanced here. He's good enough to have King X, like King with a card below a 9. And then the worst hand, obviously you can have air, like, Queen 3, and just be giving up. And so my plan here is to bet any turn, because I have a hand that doesn't have showdown value, so I need to win the pot. I can't rely on making my hand to win the pot when he checks behind, because I have too much equity, so I have to bet every turn. When the turn comes to 6, I hit Jin here. I decide to overbet. I'm betting 1.5 times the pot. I may have been doing this quite a bit in this session in spots like this, so there is some metagame factor that comes into play, but let's leave all that aside. Let's just assume that this is an isolated hand. Because I'm going to be bluffing a lot of the time here, I need to be overbetting with strong hands as well. When the board is this coordinated, it's good to overbet, because if I'm betting like 200 into 400, he's going to be getting 3-1. So many of his hands are going to call. It's kind of almost senseless to bet so small. A lot of the hands that I'm betting for value, like King, it wouldn't even be a bad spot to overbet, because he's going to have a lot of equity against, even if I have like 9-8 or a set of 6s. Even if I bet the pot, he still has a good price to call. I mean, we're extremely deep. He could have any 7 in his hand, or even a pair with a straight draw, like something like 8-7 or 6-7 or 9-7. Those hands are all going to have Jack-7, even Queen-7, those Jack-7 especially. Those hands are going to have plenty of equity to call pretty much any size bet I make. It's good to overbet in this spot as a general rule, with a lot of hands that I could have. Also with bluffs, it's good to overbet because it puts a lot of pressure on him. I don't really want to bet 200 because he's going to call me with something like 6-5. Whereas if I overbet, I might get him to fold a hand like 6-4 that he would call a $200 bet with. He might fold to an overbet, and a lot of the times I'm going to be bluffing, and I don't want him to call with those hands. If I have like Jack-10 or Queen-Jack or something with a pair and a straight draw and a diamond draw, I'm going to have a lot of equity no matter what. So in a general rule, for whatever hands that I'm betting here, overbetting is probably pretty good. And it puts him in a really tough spot. It's kind of crappy for him. Like, even if he has a hand like Ace-9, which is one of the strongest hands he checks back, if I overbet here, even if I'm bluffing with something like Jack-10 diamonds or Jack-10 even, I still have tons of outs. I have any pair plus an open-ended straight draw that wins. So I have enough equity almost to overbet anyway, even if I know he has that and he's going to call me, just because I win the pot so much of the time. So it's an extremely good spot to overbet here, and I think that that's really important to take away in this hand. It's easy to say it's a small pot, and you could bet 200 and it could go unnoticed, bet half the pot instead of 1.5 times the pot. But these are the spots where the money is made. The money is generally not made in poker in the huge all-in pots, because a lot of times those hands play themselves. It's really in the in-between pots that you are extracting the difference in skill between you and your opponent. So this is an interesting spot here, and he does call. So now I expect him to call a decent amount of the time, because he has a lot of equity too. A lot of his hands are strong. Any hand that he checked back on the flop is going to call me if it's like 8-7 or 6-7. So I'm fine with a call here. On the river, the pot is 1600, and of course we have like 5 times the pot left for our stack sizes. I think that as a rule, all of my hands here pretty much should be checking. I'm only representing a 7 if I bet the river, and by checking, my range looks weaker. If I check, he has the opportunity to bluff and represent a 7 pretty easily, because it's pretty hard for me to have 7 when I overbet and check. Whereas if I bet the river, I could have a 7. It's the only hand I'm really betting for value on the river is the 7. Maybe I'm betting 2 pair or a set and then folding to a raise, but I'm certainly not betting 1 pair. And also by checking, I have some bluff catching possibility. The other side of the coin is like, what does he have on the river? And for him to call an overbet on the turn and not bet the flop, it's unlikely that he has a draw that has complete air, because he probably would have bet that on the flop. Basically, with my specific hand, which is kind of more important in this spot, I know that if I bet the river, like if I bet 1200, he's gonna just call every time he has a 7. So I also know that he's gonna bet every time he has a 7, the same 1200. So I don't really see a reason to bet, because I'm only gonna win 1 bet if I bet 1200. But if I check and he bets 1200, now I'm gonna check raise and win 5,000. So, or 7,000, whatever I make it. I might just shove. I'm just gonna check and hope that he has a 7 and bets. When he bets 2,200 into 1,600, I think it's a pretty bad bet with a 7, because I'm not gonna really be hero calling him with, like, if I have air, I'm gonna fold, and I'm probably not gonna hero call an overbet, because it's so likely he could have a 7. Like, so many hands that he calls an overbet with on the turn and then overbets the river himself with have a 7. So I'm only really, I think that I just can't call here without a 7 with the hand, the way the hand is played. So I don't like his overbet unless he has 10-7. Just because, like, he's forcing me to fold my hands that I would hero call him with. So I actually like a bet of 1,200 here in his spot, because I could hero call 1,200. When he does bet 2,200, I think he has a 7 so much of the time, and now he reduced the stack to pot size ratio by a ton. Because the pot's 3,800, he only has 7,000, so he only has 2x pot left. I'm just gonna jam, because I don't expect him ever to fold a 7. And in fact, that's what I did, and he called me with a 7. But I think that the important thing, the theme of this hand that's really important to take away, is bet sizing. And this is a great illustration of bet sizing on 3 different streets, 3 different situations where, or 2 different situations, certainly the turn, my bet size on the turn and his bet size on the river, and then my shove, where bet sizing really changes the entire dynamic of the hand. Me overbetting 600 allowed me to win a pot of 23,000. The pot was 800 on the turn, and it turned into 23,000 on the river. Let's think about this hand. If I bet 200 on the turn, and he calls, and then I check the river, the pot's 1,200. He bets 800, and I make it 4,000. I win a pot that's half the size, simply because of my turn bet. The power of overbetting in certain spots like this compounds the benefit of the situation or the mistake. And I think that bet sizing is really important to take away from this hand. So really think about this, replay the hand, and go over some of these situations, because I think that it's overlooked so often, and it's a really good example of how such a small decision can turn into a massive one. Anyway, hope you like this. Subscribe to receive updates, more hands a day coming your way, alectorelli.com, and send me your own hands. You can go on my site, alectorelli.com, and send me all your hands that you've played. Either please put them in Boom Player if you played on PokerStars, or Poker Hand Replays if you played on Full Tilt, or if you played live, just type the hand and give me all the information so I can review it, and I'll give you my honest, sincere feedback. Hope this helps, and I'll see you guys next time. Cheers.